I mean, we've had science, but we just, I don't know, that's for sure.
So it's a
Go ahead and get started. This is session number 3, navigating challenges to product centricity in B2B products with Nishant Pandey. And I will turn it over to Nishant.
Thank you, Irene. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much, everyone. Maybe we'll start with a quick question. Just a show of hands. How many of us have worked in a B2B setup or are currently working in a B2B setup? So I'm in the right room. Thank you very much. That was a quick test. This is my agenda for today. We don't have to stick to it, but this is the content I prepared. If you feel we should talk about a question around something which I share, right? Let's stop me and talk about it. As an outline, I thought we start with some introduction, talk a little bit about product management in the context of B2B, right? Why B2B is the way it is, right? And it could mean different things to different people, right? So maybe we'll spend some time, 5 minutes or so, just setting up that context, right, of what defines a B2B setup a little bit, so that we can start talking about what we do not like about it as much, right? So, and then maybe some experiments I've been doing, which have sort of worked for me. I've failed at times. I'll just bring those learnings and share with you, right? Another question for the team here, right? Like, how many of you do think that B2B products could do better? So that is, again, I think I chose a decent enough topic. So this is me. I've worked for various of these companies, which you see on the screen. I have always been, or most of my times have been in B2B set type of roles, where a customer for me meant a big, large organization. As you see some of those logos there, whatever I share today is not necessarily their view, right? This is totally personal. So if you don't like it, it's me, not them, right? And all views expressed in this presentation are personal. Why should you care about what I have to say today? And clearly you came here, so that it looks like there's interest. But for the past few years, what I've been trying to do is take on leading product practices and try to extract the most juice out of those in my products context, right? Which have been B2B products, right? So I've succeeded at times, I've failed spectacularly. I've learned always, and and this is why this presentation is like 7 years and 2 hours in the making. 2 hours to put it together. I have reflected back on 7 years of life, right? So product management in B2B context, right? When we talk about what that context might look like, right? Like I was trying to look at what might those things be. I have always struggled to find out who that customer is, right? Who's that user for thing we are trying to build? The thing we just got funded like $8 million, and we're going to build this, and it'll be awesome. But where is that like customer hiding, right? So there's so much complexity of engaging with the customer, right? That's the first aspect of thing which I found. And let me know if somebody has not faced this, like any of this here, then I would say that either you're lucky or you're not speaking the truth, right? So that's how I feel about it. So complex product and market strategies. At times I've seen strong marketers, right, from great B schools struggle to define a product for me in terms of what is the value prop, what is the story of a particular product, and why are we doing it. If you're giving me an answer for like 3 paragraphs, that means something is broken, right? We're not able to simplistically articulate value at that, right? There is operational compliance challenges, right? There is internal dynamics, right? Like at times it is like trying to get the ticket to your party's being your party's candidate, right? It's more difficult than actually winning the election. Right? So we have to convince sales, marketing, right? Go-to-market teams, right? Just so you can make small changes at times. Right? So this is the context I'm talking about when I say B2B. I think it comes with the territory. This is not right or wrong, but at least this is how I was able to articulate what I was feeling for past some years. And take a pause, please. Let me know if anybody would want to add something to this. I want to oppose something right here, right? Let's do that maybe right off the bat. Otherwise, we'll dive into the next layer. Okay. Everybody with me thus far? Okay, fair. So all of the things we were looking at prior, right? Like I tried to come at why that might be, right? So like essentially asking myself that 5 whys in a row, right? Why is it difficult or complex to engage our customers, right? And this is where what I could think of, right? We are degrees of separations away from our end users, right? The buyers are people who generally have a title starting with C, chief of something, right? They would never use the software they buy, but they are the ones who are making all the decisions, right? And if we as B2B product managers make something which pleases just the buyers, it will sell, but very soon the value will not be there, and they will cancel, not renew, right? So you'll not be able to retain that, right? If you build something awesome for the users and it is not impressing the buyers enough, the users are not sufficiently represented when these decisions are happening. Multiple stakeholders, right? It's like emphasis on relationship building. They're very, very bad products at times, which become instant hits if you have the right relationships, right? And there are products which are awesome, right? Nobody would want to engage with just because you don't have the right relationships in place, right? So many a times these are long, multi-year relationships which companies on both sides have invested into, right? And that's where as product people, we need to be mindful of either leveraging those relationships or pivoting on some of these relationships if needed, right? And then many a times these days specifically, I read a little bit about do not be a feature factory, right? The thing is, right, like if you are in a B2B setup, post sale, there's a lot of customization which happens. Every organization thinks that they are unique. They might not be, right? But when they are buying software, they would want to customize it, right? And that's where comes that load of 150, enhancement requests, which if you work on, would be like working in a feature factory, right? Which is a sin, because you cannot do that, right? So moving on, right? Like so I think there is the complexity on engaging with the customer. There is complexity on marketing strategy. How do you navigate this long sales cycle, right? So there are times all of us have agile teams, right? Scaled agile teams. We are doing sprints and releasing value quickly to production. But then there is this long sales cycle of like 8 months. So as one demo, the other demo, and then we like it, then we people see it, and then let's talk about it, right? So now this is taking so much time that by the time you've conceived a product to the time you take it to actual in the hand of users, it is generally years or at least few months, right? And that's one thing which I have personally struggled with and try to solve for in my work. Focus on ROI and business value. If you are constantly trying to articulate the value of a product which is being used, right? How much do we invest on it? What do we make from it? Why does it not work in Asia? And those type of things, then definitely you are in the right room and you are a B2B product manager. Okay. This is, I think, similar to the past. Like these are other aspects, like cross-functional collaboration, looking at always being constrained for resources, trying to get that party ticket to run for elections, right? And then whenever you're looking at scaling an offering, you're always in that situation of, hey, we built this, it works great, and we know the use case now. Can you take it to China? Can you take it to India? Can you scale it to next, set of tier of customers, right? And that's where we have something which we built as a product once. We are trying to scale it. I think that's the nature of the business, because the company itself doesn't exist to create new products. It exists to make revenue and profit margins, right? Again, complex pricing models, and then a lot of regulatory and compliance things as well, because if you are a large ticket B2B company, there are certain things you would not maybe want to do. So all of this is fine. These are symptoms, right? Like I looked at all of these and had been noting these down, right? why do I feel a certain way about certain set of products? But then we thought that what might be some barriers, right? Why all of this is happening? So this is that third level of or fourth level of why we are getting to, right? Why we are the way we are, why we are broken in some ways. Some of it is just comes with the territory. Some of it might be things which are our own doing, right? And that's what I will look at next with us if everybody still plans to stay in the room. Fair. So barriers to product centricity. I think taking all of those symptoms, these are the 5 root causes I could think of. Right? Why are we the way we are? One, our primary buyers are not our users. So somebody is buying something for somebody else, like Christmas gift shopping, right? Like, say, you'll get something which you don't need, right? That's what at least happens to me, right? So people gift me books I do not read, stocks, and stuff like that. So basically, it's a similar way, right? Like you have these executives who are buying something for end users. We are getting into that territory of indirect user needs. You are not talking to the user, you're getting indirect needs of the user. And what is that is doing to you is there is a disconnect between what you are developing at times, right, and very often, and the actual user experience that is being provided. Right. Next one here is communication through intermediaries, right? Like there are times you would want to be able to call the user and talk to them, right? The time you cannot do that, right? Because this is a product made by a credit bureau sold to a bank, which go and implement it in their, Asia Pacific branch. And then there is a person in the branch who's a broker, somebody who reports to him uses the software, right? Now try getting through to that person. It is very difficult. There are ways to get around it, and we'll talk a little bit about it. But what is happening is at this point, you have feedback which is mediated. There are people who are adding their own spin to it, right? There is, however, if you see however in that feedback sentence, the client says this, however, that is the bias coming in, right? This is the distortion and feedback coming in terms of delaying that feedback a little bit. Okay. The third thing which I'll talk about is roadmaps at times are shaped by your highest paying customer, right? Has anybody felt this or happened to them? Like, yeah, yes. I feel so nice. Like, it's not only me, right? This is good. So, and what that does is, right, like you create overly complex features because the biggest bank in North America wants it, right? And they want it. So you'll spend a lot of time and you'll realize the revenue there and then, most likely, right? If you're a strong company, hey, we sold this to Bank of America, for example, right? But the fact is that many of these features are not being built from a user base mindset in play, right? So what will happen is we like it or not, like at times B2B product managers are spending resources and building stuff which will not be used by majority of the users who interact with your product. It'll be used by the highest paying customers who are different at times from your people who are actually going to use this. Fourth one here, long sales cycle. I think we talked a little bit about long sales cycle, right? So this is very long sales cycle. And what that means is agility is missing in action, right? There is no, what is the point of having a 2-week sprint in which you can take feedback and then iterate on it, and after like it is built, will take like 9 months to implement it in production, right? I think that there itself we are killing agility, right? What this does is that it's difficult to maintain momentum on product development, right? No matter what methodology used from agile perspective, right? The whole beauty of it is to be able to test, iterate, learn something, do something different, right? Do a little bit of it, understand the impact of it, experimentation, and then try something more awesome, right? It's made difficult because of slowed implementation and momentum being lost, right? I'll give the last one here, and maybe we can then see any experiences our audience might have had. High customization demand. No matter how great a B2B software you make, the moment it is reaching the field, there are people who are asking, but why don't I be able to do X from the same street, right? And then there is this whole set of, and the thing is, good or bad, many customers are willing to pay for it, right? And then that creates that hustle where you are having to put that product hat on to make sure that you are defending your users a little bit, right? So this is where we have this request of extensive customization, strained development resources, complicated prioritization, right? And everything which goes with the 1 and 2, I think sort of goes here. This might impact the roadmap as well. So I thought that by asking why multiple times, I sort of at least this is why the problem exists, right? So I felt good about. I have understood why I've been a little bit, bothered by some of the things which I've seen happening in some of my products. I will take a pause. Please let me know if anybody would want to opine on any of these, any experience you would want to share if you have faced in a product you manage. Raj.
This is awesome. I was like nodding my head the entire time you went through all these slides because I was like similar to what you mentioned. My question is around the third bullet point where you talk about roadmap shaped by high-paying customers. I mean, I'm trying to think of like a sixth barrier which may be aligned to this is also often because the primary buyers are the C-suite and the roadmap is shaped by high-paying customers. There's also constant comparison between the previous product that they were using versus
Most of the product which we have moved away from, and we're trying to go back and get me the same thing which you should look like that.
to an extent that A/B testing, comparative testing, control target, all control experiment, all of that kind of is now all skewed because the directive that comes top down is make this work like how it used to work.
Yeah. I want a new system which is totally new, but it should work exactly like the past one, so that it gives all the benefits of the new one without giving anything.
Just change the branding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I do agree with the point. I will add to it. Thank you very much for expanding my learning a little bit. I do like that point. Yes. Agree. Anybody else want to share something?
That never happens, yeah.
Okay.
One other thing you find a lot is the metrics. Talk loud enough. When you're trying to be data centric as well, your in sometimes is statistically too low to do much with the data you have coming out. Features, especially if you have a lot of features, it tends to scatter usage and you just don't get much out of it. That also makes it quite difficult.
Sure. So I think if I was to re-articulate what you said, somewhere, if you're selling a cell phone, right, like then 100 million people are using it, and you can get so many data points. Now, we would like rather get $50 million from just one customer, which is not even a person, like their bank, and maybe, right? And then how do you get so many data points to be able to actually validate what you're trying to do, right? So yes, I agree. Those 2 points, definitely, I will add to it. Sure.
The notion of communication through intermediaries is it really a function of relatively small number to large customers that you have, and it's actually a blessing and a curse. It's not just a barrier, but it's also a benefit if you know how to use it. And one of your slides talked to relationships with key customers. Is a good way in my mind to turn this weakness, if you will, into a strength.
I totally agree. Yes.
I know this doesn't happen to anybody else. I would call the first one the offside tackle. So we're no sooner executing against the roadmap than somebody comes up with another idea and it, like a black hole, sucks all the resources away, but doesn't actually change the prioritization. Like I know nobody else has that happen.
Yeah.
And then maybe a close cousin to that would be you no sooner set up the operating model and the roadmap, and then there's a lab that's set up that can put together proofs of concept that haven't had a feasibility study, but they've now socialized it with all the higher ups. And now it's like, well, why can't you build the thing that we saw on Thursday to actually operate when the thing that they saw on Thursday was kind of smoke and mirrors? I know I have to be alone in all of that.
Thank you very much.
Great.
This is true. I feel good that other people facing bigger problems. Good. Yeah.
Completely agree with all 5. I think number 1 is the closest one that I can relate to because I was working previously in a company where it was 3-sided marketplace. So B2B plus software plus end user.
At the C there, way to see.
Always, always B2B at that end. But I wanted to talk about number four, long sales cycle.
Yeah.
Given that AI has disrupted a lot more in the industry right now, and people or companies are much more asking for faster sales cycle, like make this product in 3 months, or like can we have better system integrated into 3 months? What is sort of the take that we have taken? Have you seen it?
So I'm currently like just highlighting the problems. I think you're touching a little bit on the solution side, right? But I would debate with you saying that clients are asking for something fairly quickly. That's true. Because the expectations of products, expectations from technology, expectation from each other has increased a little bit, right? But does that mean that they would give you a decision sooner? Likely no. Right? And when you get into even when you have like I was in sales for a little bit of my career, like beginning of my career, and what I found is that always be closing, but many a times we are closing to a meeting, right? And that's the star salespeople, right? There are people who do not even get the next meeting, right? So that's a different case. So you're like at times the at least we used to take pride in terms of, hey, we were able to get through this. Now we get into the next channel. Now we meeting the decision makers like direct report. Now we're going to meet the decision maker who will tell us that he'll get back to us after the offsite, right? So this is that long sales cycle still exists, and for good reason, right? Because we can take a cell phone, not like it, and return it, right? But organizations, especially like large B2B corporations, have reputation at stake, right? So these processes and checks are there for a reason, right? So that's why I'll say that some of it will stay no matter like first session we attend. Yeah. Yes.
So I'm fairly new to this. I could relate for the first 4 points, but for the fifth point, can you explain why this is a difficulty or a barrier? Because doesn't customization we get paid for the customization, right?
Yes, we get paid for it, right? That's why that's where, right? So we do get paid for it, right? And to your point, right? Like that's why there is a lot of tussle in a lot of stakeholders within the company pushing you to prioritize. I do not know what this guy is talking about value. There is $2 million value here. Let's do this, right? The fact is that how do you see the role of products? You are advocate for the personas which are not in the room, right? When we talk about value, and some of it is, I think now we're getting into the actual solution aspect of it. So I'll park some of the answer, right? But somewhere, right? What the thing also is that there is bigger value. It'll get you revenue today, maybe, but maybe for that 4 million, 8 million, whatever that customization you are being paid for, is taking away your resources who should have already been talking about something else. And like somebody said, comparison, right? You're not only comparing to the past product which did not work, that's why I replaced it with your product. I'm also talking about what are other banks doing, right? I want to be able to compete with my competitors as well. So it's taking you away from all of that. If in some cases that might be the best thing to do, in some cases, maybe not. Okay. So I think we've spent some time on this, and thank you very much. I really admire all of you for bringing these questions and real life examples. This is amazing. So what are we going to do about it, right? And how do we fight those product centricity barriers? As this progresses, I'll lean more and more on you because I just brought one person's opinionated view on how some of the things work for me better as opposed to the other, right? So the first thing I'll talk about is because you are so degrees of separation away from your users, you need to do something about it, right? And what that something is, like I think, at least for me, what it meant is define user personas even when others on the team say there's not enough time for it, right? Once you define your persona, you know them really, really well, right? This user persona is a banker in Singapore. No, that's not enough, right? You need to know them better. You need to, because you will be advocating for them, right? So you need to be able to understand them really, really well, right? Many ways to create a persona. I think I call out like choose whatever way you like. And for my industry, for example, right? I work in commercial real estate. In fact, we are in this building itself. The floor number 47, 48, JLL. right? And these are some of the personas which manage. There are people who are facility managers. There are commercial real estate heads. There is even a janitor here. There's an account manager. All of them care about different stuff, right? And all of them interact with the same set of products you create for them, right? And none of them are generally in the room when any of those decisions are being made for funding, right? Like any B2B set, right? So what we are doing, right? Like, and what I've tried to do for the most part is when you understand a persona, these are few things I would want to know about them. Because you're representing them, it is important for you to know what their mental model is. How does a facility manager think, right? If you do not know how the FM thinks, you should not be product managing a system which is built primarily for facility management, right? What is the context in which they are operating? Right? Let's maybe take this example. Take anyone, maybe FM, I'll take, right? They are people who are really busy keeping a 70 floor building up and running. Something is breaking every minute, right? And they're also like trying to see like the newer practices, visitors are coming in, so many different things are happening. So they are busy people who are trying to get something done operation, right? Now you know that inside, right? Next time, if there is something which requires 5 steps in the process and you are the PM, you should be advocating for them and saying that, hey, this is not fair to my FM. Can we not make it simpler? What are their pain points? What delights them? And what is their motivation, right? Like what would make them? Essentially, we're trying to understand like what is valuable or not. Without this, I think this. I will take a pause. Please let me know if anybody has any experience in creating personas. Anybody who has seen products which do not have personas written out and there's no time to write them, right? Because at times we are trusted into ongoing fire, right? Where it's just this product is not working through a product manager.
I like this framework because the B2B products I've led in the past, I felt that the stakeholders I'm engaging with as executives have something they want out of the product. There's data or there's some sort of output the users are going to give them.
Yeah.
They don't understand the motivations that will drive the user to use the product in the correct way to actually get the data out they need. And so they might not want to spend the time to figure out what would make their persona happy, but if you frame it as what is their motivation, what will get them to use the product instead, especially if you're migrating from a legacy product. So I think this frame helps your stakeholders come up with their own ideas to influence the behavior of their end users to get out of the tool what they need. Because I think sometimes they design it for the dashboard that they want, but they don't design it for the interaction that the persona needs.
Yeah. So, and I'll say that this, all these, right? The CRE head, for example, right? They would be something similar to the persona you're talking about, right? They would want to save 15% on like cost to operate and maintain their whole building portfolio, right? And now with that thing, what should not happen as product people, right? Is other voices are like subdued. So yes, I do agree.
Just gonna say, like, seeing the janitor up there is terrific. And the reason why I'm saying that is that sometimes I think we not necessarily mean to, but we overlook some personas, and it makes me think of two things. One, we have our airports around the world actually compete on cleanliness of the bathroom, right? So people will avoid traveling through an airport if the airport has a reputation for having an unclean bathroom. And the second thing is, like, at Disney did a big study years ago before the pandemic on what were the number one worker interactions in the theme park. And you would have thought it was the characters. It's not, it's the sweepers. And so they're actually the number one workers who actually contribute to the theme park experience over what you would think, like, meeting with the Disney princesses or Mickey Mouse. And so how do we as PMs actually make sure that it's really truly all the voices in the room?
Yeah. No, thank you very much. So I just said something on this, right? Like when I was making this presentation, like as any meeting I go to, this is one persona I am really passionate about. I want to make sure that when we're talking about saving costs, for example, they are knowing what are their challenges, right? Where to go in the easiest possible way to clean it and be able to say that, hey, I've cleaned this, so that next time if somebody else spills somebody there, they're not unfairly, for example, laying down that. So yes, I resonate with that. Yeah, so that resonates with me. Yes.
I was gonna add around the personas piece that luckily ChatGPT and other AI tools, there's an ability to actually create a synthetic persona. I know folks might have limited budgets around actually doing user research. So that element of things to be able to craft, okay, well, in an interactive way, well, what is, this questions are really on that screen that there's a way to create it. I'll leave it to folks in this room to look up the actual prompt if you're curious around how to create it. But that's a way that if you don't have the ability to chat to your users, do so in a different way.
Okay, so I think what was said is that if you don't have access to it, you can use the ChatGPT to be able to create a synthetic persona, right? So yeah, that's a tool to take. Right.
Quick,
I will. If somebody have something.
no, just a quick comment. There was a lady in the second row mentioned that people don't use features the way they're designed or the way it's supposed to. Sometimes it's actually a gift. You can uncover another persona that way.
Sometimes
It's a gift. You can uncover another persona that way.
perfect. So most positive things have been said by you on the previous point. I really admire you. Thank you. Yes. Yes. The most optimistic person in the room. I agree. Yeah. Yes.
Just one quick insight to this slide is, I think the journey of the persona also changes post launch of a particular product. And I think constant measurement, so even simply metrics, helps kind of tweak certain aspects of our product as the persona also kind of, again, this is a different example that you have here, but in my case, basically we deal with a lot of different advertising agencies, media analysts, CMOs, and it differs from what type of campaigns, ROAS, iROAS, all of that they're trying to kind of measure cost per purchase. So I think that's also something that has helped me is constantly measuring the metrics after product launch, and then kind of telling that story back to our management that, hey, initially maybe we started with this as our persona, but like 6 months down the line or a year down the line after the product MVP launch, things have changed and the persona is like 50% different than what we actually started.
So you're trying to steal my thunder now. I just not. So yeah, that's for the next project. So perfect. Yes, I agree. Yes, yes. So yes, please go ahead.
So I just wanted to ask, like somebody said that we could use ChatGPT as a persona, but I wanted to ask, is that even is that approach we should take? Because the whole reason you're going for a persona is because you want to understand the problem on a ground level and you want to see what your users feel to come up with a better solution. And when you described it, you even yourself said that it's a synthetic persona. So do you think it's a good approach to make a
so when customers don't do it, I would not do it, right? So, but when you are like when you do not have access, I think that's what somebody had mentioned, right? You do not have access. Like I really want aircraft maintenance engineer for whom I'm building this product, right? I do not have access to them today, right? So this is how I will look at it. But whatever that is created, you will actually verify when you find one and ask them to say that, hey, this is what we think you think like. Is it about? Yeah.
To add on to that, I think a proposal could be you can create a synthetic persona, but then validate what that synthetic persona brings with a real persona to see if there's any patterns there. So that way you can kind of see if a persona that isn't real, if they have these concerns and a real persona also have them, you can kind of bring that to the team as a kind of like an additional way to have data to inform product decisions. So that can be like a nice little exercise where even if you have personas, try using a synthetic persona to kind of like see based on historical data, what does it come up with? Does it align with what you find? Or if there's any difference, why is that the case?
Sure, it'll say with that. So everybody was there in the first session, I think. Yes, that's awesome. Yes.
I was just going to do one last comment on that, and that is there's actually research now. Now, this does not replace the actual people. But you can actually you can set up the personas and then actually create synthetic focus groups So you can actually run analyses and validation benches with the synthetic entities and validate with the humans for sure. And we're going to see more and more of that moving forward, but you can do that now. And there's empirical research on it.
Oh, perfect. Thank you both. So I would say that I was feeling there's no Gen AI in my presentation, right? Thank you for bringing that in. Right? So it's cool. Now it's actually cool. So yes, thank you. The second thing we should talk about, right? Defining those journey stops. I think you were talking about some ways, right? Know key customer touch points with your products, right? Like understand the opportunities and problem statement. I think I've really enjoyed trying to create persona journeys for like this is how a product will be used in the 10-step process. For example, this is the main persona, like the janitor comes and does X, and then now the FM looks at this report. Now the CRE head looks at this 3 months later, and then the payment is like, sent out or whatever that complex B2B flow you have of 40 people coming in. I think plotting it out has really helped me. Why I like it is that because it visualizes your journey end to end, at times you'll be surprised by the type of gaps you find, right? It identifies key interaction points, not only the gaps, at times there are fantastic opportunities. Like nobody is looking at this space of the product, for example, right? And it allows you to align cross-functional teams for a user-centric goal, right? Aligning cross-functional team on anything is difficult, and leave alone aligning them on a user-centric goal, right? So yes, we were there, we built consensus, we used fist of 5 and this and that, right? But finally, right, was it in step for that user-centric goal? If you have a journey mapping, whichever one you like, right? Like agnostic of the format and template you use. This is the simplistic one I could find actually. At each step, right? What is the gap? What is the opportunity? What are they going through, right? And from up, like this is last is like me trying to build that consensus, right? So what is the prioritization? So if I will be able to improve this, would you be able to put your money, right? So that's where I'm bringing in prioritization as well. All of this, the beauty of this is it will not be stale in 3 months, right? For my products, a suite of products I manage, I did this exercise like 2.5 years ago. It still is a useful reference. I cannot think of any other document which I made 3 years ago and I go to refer to it. Right? Somebody says something that, hey, but the invoicing process, how can somebody improve the invoicing process? This is so automated. Just hold on. I can go to my journey map and I can tell out what vendors are saying about it, what the clients are saying about it, what janitors are saying about it, what small companies are saying about it, what DEI related, spend category people are saying about it. Right? So I have a lot of this information because we did this 2 years ago. This will be time well spent if you are up to do it as a product. Okay, we have some slides to cover and I'm a little bit mindful of the time. I think we have sufficient time, especially since we might not need as much in the end, right? So because we're taking questions as we go. But the next thing which I'll quickly talk about is focusing on outcomes. I think this is enough said about outcomes and not outputs, right? But shifting from deliverables to value creation, I think is something which should be a product activity where product people should invest their time thinking about, right? What I also say is that measuring your success, right, by user and business impact, like carefully chosen words, right? Business impact, definitely. I think everybody who prioritizes on value talks about business impact. If you don't do it, your CPO will tell you. If he doesn't do it, the CEO will tell you that, hey, do this, right? That's a good way to get business impact, maybe, right? But the user impact is at times lost, right? So as product manager, the advocate of the personas which you manage, like the product for, this is something which I would highly recommend. Last thing here, outcomes drive long-term product adoption, right? What I've seen happen sometimes is we have great relationships, we have a bad product, we've used the relationship to the advantage, like the gentleman there said, it could be an advantage, we used it to an advantage, we sold the product, but if the value wasn't there, right, then it would at some point lose its sheen and nobody would want to use it. So it's not either or. You need the relationship, use it to your advantage, but somebody has to be thinking about long-term user value and adoption, right? And that I think should be the product map. Fair. So I think jobs to be done has been around for a long time. Every talk in this conference as well, I've heard a little bit about it. what I started doing with jobs to be done is, if you are in a setup which is got a barrier to product centricity, maybe we need to do more with it. We should do jobs to be done on steroids, right? Something like that. Right? So what I try to do is, so this is my persona, right? Could be that CRE head or somebody in a bank. The job to be done, right? What are they trying to get done, right? For example, like why are they hiring your product for that matter, right? Why do you exist in their life? Otherwise, they would not want to talk to you, right? The outcomes they're looking for and the capability and the technology they use. Right? So I've tried to layer it this way. And what I'm trying to do with this and is right to be able to like this is just an example of it, right? If we are able to do something like this, right? I'm removing this job to be done and persona and such from a PowerPoint which exists just with me and my team of product managers. It becomes something which even the chief architect is looking at, right? Because now you say that, hey, FM wants to be able to, like, this is the context in which they are operating, right? They're fluctuating occupancy. They want to ensure that their sites are safe and clean, right? And how do they do that? Like, why do they do that? The outcome is they'll improve their inspection scores by X%, right? And what is the capability which allows us to do that? How does the technology come in play? And below this, there's actually an architecture there. You are able to tie every component of your tech ecosystem back to the value creating item, which is your job to be done, which you are like your product is born for, right? And then the effect. Like why I say this is and why I thought this is worthy of getting a slide on its own is that this aligns your tech with user growth, right? Like that's what we were trying to do, right? Like remove those barriers and reach the user. Now that as your tech stack is, which one of it supports which users, right? It creates clear link between capabilities and values, right? So you know that, hey, this time if we are going to move from, one cloud management solution to the other one, what all is impacted, right? What does it do to the user? Many initiatives are totally back-end, right? That it gets pulled into, right? But doesn't need to be as back-end as it looks, right? You should still be able to showcase and try that value of where it is leading to a actual positive impact. Why is it being done, right? It improves the cross team alignment and on user needs as well, right? Because this is where, right, if this is such an important aspect of it, does being on cloud, a cloud first, mobile first, come in your marketing statement or not? If not, why? Let's talk about this with the marketing. Okay. Is everybody with me thus far? Still? Okay. So this is benefits realization. Again, one of the things which I've seen happen is we make a great software product. The product is good. Product is being bought. The relationship comes into play. They've started, getting the licenses, but then it is not being used in the way we thought it will be used, right? Because this is like we build an amazing playground, and then we're saying that this is so nice. Why aren't the kids playing it? Right? Turns out that like you need to be able to do more than just products and programs, and make sure that you are like making sure or have a benefit realization plan, right? And if somebody wants to talk about benefit realization plan, that's my favorite topic, by the way. So we can talk about how would you make sure that that value is realized. The value doesn't always lie in the product itself. The value lies at times maybe in the person actually letting go of a habit, taking your product, be able to order something through your product, right? In that process, realizing that not only saving time, but realizing that they have saved time, for example, right? And that whole realization of benefits is what I'm talking about. If you do not have written like, benefits that seek to be realized and what you will do to realize those benefits, do not be surprised 2 years later if they say that, hey, this product is not delivering on the time. It wasn't designed to, right? If you are making a playground, going back to a playground example, which kids will use, then you need to have the right type of swings. Like you need to have the parents are involved. You need to have the right type of safety standards for it, right? You need to be able to be in a location where, there are schools maybe, right? So that more kids can come, and you need to advertise at the right channels. So many things need to come together to make sure that the product would be used as intended The benefit realization aspect forces you as a product manager to write out how those benefits would be realized. Please go ahead. Something positive is coming, I'm sure.
Not this time. The value realization becomes even harder when it's an older customer, meaning like customer you've had for a while. A new customer will examine values and features and all that stuff and implement it, but customers been with you for 5-6 years. That's actually one of our biggest problems. They're almost deaf to all the new things we're launching. And it's, I mean, we've found some solutions to that challenge. We're getting better and better, but it's like even harder with customers that have been with you for a while. So it is a big problem, right? They just don't know all the great things that you've done for them.
True. And like at times, these organizations and these relationships are much longer than our individual careers, right? Like, so 10 years ago, something has happened and now you are the head of products for this, trying to manage something. So yes, it can be convoluted. If you want to shift the value prop, thinking about this is important, is what I'll say, but I do agree with what you said. Okay, I have 5 minutes. I'll be a little bit quicker on this one. The way you define value, and like all of us, many of us are product managers, I assume, right? Or product adjacencies. We don't need to talk about how to prioritize and what is prioritization, right? But how you define value defines who you are as a product manager, as an organization as well, right? So when you talk about value, every product suite, or even feature at times, right, which I'm building, I'm trying to rewrite what should be value in this case. Framework remains the same, right? We look at value and effort and get the biggest bang for our buck in shortest time, right? But right, how you define this value is influenced by many things, right? And I would request you to be creative in terms of how you define this value, right? And also like think about your personas. Right? So, for example, this urgency, the solution, maybe this is coming from higher up wanting to get it done soon, right? While willingness to pay, and this is coming from my experiments with a product which was giving data insights. Everybody wanted that data, but nobody wanted to pay for it, right? So that's where, like, if you would have a willingness to pay, maybe that's more value or indication of it, right? So those type of things. Okay, I think I have less than 4 minutes. So unless anybody has a burning question on this, we will get down to the last 2 slides and then we can. And I know I'm in a very powerful situation right now, right? I stand between you guys and the happy hour, right? So I will not try to be like taking longer. So I'll be quick. Right? Track and measure leading indicators. Many a times, everything in some of these B2B engagements is about revenue, is about cost margins, cost savings. The problem is those are lagging indicators. Like I think many of us already know, right? Like by the time they happen, it's already too late, right? The client doesn't like you and it's over. That shouldn't be the case, right? You should get some feedback. I have seen various things. I think previous talk in this room, if you were here, was on similar lines, touching on some of these topics. But I really like this product engagement score. Pandey was mentioned. They do a great job. I think they have even a free certification for some of you to actually look at. Maybe they're not paying me for this sentence, right? Just adoption, stickiness, and growth. Those are 3 things which are leading indicators. You will know them before you know that revenue is there or is not there. Right? So let's try to be a little bit more proactive. If you're able to do this, I think this counters the beginning thing we talked about. Hey, we have this long sales cycle. Now, if you're taking more to know that it's not working, then it's a bigger problem. Okay. And then I think this is the last one here. I'm driving some CX transformation these days. So NPS had to come. I think somewhere reach out to the right personas, right? Find out channels to be able to, segment your NPS feedback if that's what you do, right? I really like it because at times I got a 6, but that's not bad. No, it is, right? They would not recommend you, right? So somewhere if you're looking at that and creating 2 feedback loops, right? Somebody said that there is merit in those relationships. What does your account say about you? What does the account say about the product? What does the sales head say about these products? Right? What does the customer say about this product? Right? You know this upfront, right? Many a times those people having been in those roles, they will be right. Sometimes they will be wrong as well, right? Because they have biases. But having their feedback early on tells you what the problems you could expect from the users, right? And gives you more time to be able to handle those before users reject your product, it is much better the account rejected. Okay. And that is pretty much all I had. This is my LinkedIn, just in case anybody wants to connect with me. That's my email ID. And thank you very much all. I really appreciate your support.
Speak with him afterwards. Happy hours upstairs in the main room. And want to grab a water? I know it's kind of hot in the building right now. There's some water out there. It's available for everyone.
Thanks all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Harry.
Wonderful product manager. I think this one was.
They really need your own.
It's a ton of sense and we use it all the time. It's great.
It's not all bad.
No big. The short.
What's that?
Thank you very much. We're not political. Then we. So you know what to know. I didn't.
With the cool.